최고.
So let's talk about this epilogue. So we can't talk about it much because of strict embargo stuff with Nintendo. Just basically tell me what you can tell me and your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a brand new campaign in this version of Xenoblade Chronicles called Future Connected that takes place after the main story. And I mean, me personally, I really want to dive into that right away, and thankfully they let you. It's an extra option on the main menu, so you do not have to beat the entire 100-hour game to get to it. But once you go into it, it's basically treating it like an extra part after that main game. So you drop in and you are at level 60 with a party of Shulk and Melia, and you guys have a bunch of stats ready to go, and the fights can be pretty challenging because you're dropped in right at that sort of end game tier of level. But it's a really good time, and supposedly, according to interviews, it's about a 12-hour or 15-hour experience, and I've put a couple hours into it, and I'm feeling like the story pace is moving a lot swifter than it might in the main campaign.
Awesome. Now I'm wondering, let's just say somebody buys this just to play that, which is understandable. I mean, it's $60, yeah, but it's a full-fledged game, basically. There's a lot of games that you can buy for $60 that are a lot less in terms of sheer amount of content than just this epilogue alone.
Totally.
So, does the game, like, teach you anything if you jump straight into that? Like, does it have any type of, like tutorials, or does it assume you know everything as if you just played the whole main campaign?
The epilogue does a really good job of like guiding you through what's new in it, because they've made some changes to the gameplay systems and combat, but it definitely does not treat it like a brand new experience with a lot of tutorializations. So you definitely want to at least be a little familiar with the main game, which again is why it's so good that you can jump into the epilogue whenever you want, because if you're maybe a fan who played the original 10 years ago, you probably don't remember exactly how the combat works, so you could jump into the main campaign for a couple of hours, get your feet wet, and then dive right into the epilogue, which I think is totally valid, because, you know, for a lot of fans, the story is one of the biggest parts of Xenoblade Chronicles, and I think this campaign feels like it's offering up enough of a brand new experience and brand new systems that just getting this new Switch version for that epilogue, I think, is totally worth the money.
Yeah, and talk about that a little bit. So what exactly is different for you in the epilogue, if you can talk about that?
So there's a couple of new combat systems that shake things up with the epilogue. So namely, there's a certain ability that Shulk can use that kind of guides him and shows him what attacks enemies are about to use in a few turns, and you don't have that ability anymore. So you kind of have to be a lot more careful fighting powerful bosses and sort of plan each attack a little more carefully than the main game. And then also a big part of the combat from the original game are chain attacks, and you don't have chain attacks anymore in the epilogue. Instead, there's a new system of all-out attacks, which are basically just kind of like big special moves that you unlock as you meet characters throughout the epilogue. So you'll kind of meet a character, do a side quest for them, and they'll say, hey, okay, now I'll fight with you. And then when you fill a meter enough in battle, you can summon them and do a special mega kind of summon style attack.
So all of these attacks, are they like newly created, like animations and stuff like that?
Yeah, the attacks are all brand new. They weren't really in the main game because the characters you meet aren't in the main game, and the main game has the chain attack system where you're linking together attacks from each of your party members. So instead of doing that, now you just use these big sort of special summon abilities.
In this epilogue, does it take place in the same like world as the base game does, or is it a whole new area?
So it's technically a whole new area. In Future Connected, you explore a place called the Bionis Shoulder, which was supposed to be part of the main game, and you kind of see that area in cutscenes, but you never get to explore it. So they basically fleshed it out, turned into a whole fully explorable region, and that's where this epilogue takes place.
That's really cool. So you get like a little tease in the base game.
Yeah, because apparently they had planned for this location to be a part of the original game, but had to cut it, and so the fact that you get to at least see it in cutscenes in the original, and now the epilogue lets you explore it, I feel like is another kind of cool little thing that would entice old fans to come back and play the epilogue. If you got an eagle eye, you can spot this whole environment in cutscenes throughout the main game. I think they've stated in interviews they've had that model sitting there for the Bionis Shoulder environment, but they just didn't have the time to turn it into an explorable world in the original game. So this epilogue gave them an excuse or a reason to bring that model back and actually make it into a fully explorable world.